The Wisconsin Badgers won a football game. How real is the success? Is there anything to build on? Ryan has completely flipped the script in a matter of less than 2 weeks. But the Wisconsin Badgers men's basketball team has a big test in just over 1 week. Let's talk about it at Talking Badgers. Woo! Oh, God. I grabbed the... There we go. All right.
Dude, also, I want to get out ahead of this.
Yeah.
I saw Robbie Sorensen's comment that he didn't know, I'm on the butt on lettuce lately.
Yep.
This is an issue due to the metro market and Quick Trip by my house not having the capacity to stock Miller High Life lights for my episode, basically, because I saw respect, Ken. So I had to make the switch. If you're not going to fulfill the demands of your customers,
I had no idea that Miller High Life light existed until 10 seconds ago.
Great beer.
It existed for quite some time, went away for, I don't know, Coop, 5, 6 years for a while.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah. And then returned about a year ago.
Yeah.
It's only been back around for about a year. And it's certainly not Miller Lite. It is High Life Light. It is a distinct product. It's good stuff. Highly recommend. But yeah, we're here to talk about beer. We're talking about Badgers. As usual, as the podcast is aptly named.
Battlestar Galactica, all the above.
Yeah.
Fellas, the Wisconsin Badgers football team won a game inside Camp Randall Stadium, much to, I think, most folks' surprise, an announced attendance of over 70,000, and all certainly 70,000 who were in attendance got to witness something.
What's the actual number, you think?
So not more than 50 at any point for sure. And I think by the time the game ended, it was significantly fewer.
I mean, the weather doesn't help, but
yeah, like they only took the lead midway through the third quarter, and the weather had started. It was about halftime, and they came back from the half. The precipitation really had begun. So I think it was. I think the fourth quarter of that game was entertaining. I think there were a lot of interesting special teams things that happened in that fourth quarter, and I'm not just talking about Ben Barton blocking a punt. By the way, I talked to both punters on Tuesday and Jack Sneaker, so that feature is coming.
Tom Rinaldi out this bitch, dude.
But I can understand that real. Wisconsin football fans expect the air raid. They don't expect a high-flying punting offense, and that's what they got inside Camp Randall for the fourth quarter. So that field storm was a little light on storm and heavy on field. Dylan, you've certainly written some words, spilled some ink about the Badgers this past week, but Coop, I don't think we have gotten as much from you. Your initial thoughts, your takeaways from watching what went down in a barn-burning 13-10 victory on Barry Alvarez Field.
First thing, losing the vest obviously is in correlation to winning, right? I think the sweatshirt was an incredible move out of Fickle. To me, for him, that's a fuck you to people like me. I can respect that. But I'm happy for the team. Good for Luke Fickle. Credit where credit's due. You guys beat a ranked opponent.
First time.
I don't think the team looked great. Like, it wasn't like a great win or anything like that. Washington played like ass. Wisconsin just played like less ass, mainly on offense. The defense. Go ahead.
I don't know that the offense played like less ass.
Yeah, I honestly, I think it was just so unique to see a Luke Fickell-led team not fold. There was adversity in this game, and they still managed to come out on top and play with an intensity. And it's just something we haven't seen. As soon as this team gets down, punched in the mouth over the course of 2.5 years, we watch them fold. That's what happens, and that did not happen this time. And it wasn't even probably halfway through the third quarter, and I looked at my wife. I'm like, they're gonna win this fucking game, and I truly I'm just very excited for them. Like the players, like I think it's apparent, that they still very much care. They will play for this coach, this staff, like for the if nothing
that was my
else.
big thing. Like myself included, a lot of people quit on Luke Fickell. Clearly, the team hasn't quit on Luke Fickell. Like you don't go out and win this game if you don't believe in your coach. So I mean, good for him rallying the boys.
Right, you just lost every game in October, and to come off a bye.
Got beat by the Brewers.
Yeah, to come off a bye and all of that, and to play the game that you did, and win the way you did. How jealous is Iowa that Wisconsin won a Big Ten football game with their punter leading the air attack?
The game was so sloppy, but it's like, hey, win's a win,
It was one of the most wild and just like unconventional games I've watched in a long time.
This Dylan hit the nail on the head for what I initially thought about the game as I was watching it and the fight that they showed, because as I started chronicling at the very beginning of the season, Wisconsin did not win a game in 2024 in which a power conference opponent scored first against them. Over the last 2 seasons, by the end of October, Wisconsin was 0-9 in power conference games when their opponent scored first. 0-9. And they managed to find a way in this game. And I know that they did score first in this game. So yes, Wisconsin is still 0-9 in that circumstance, but it was not a game in which Wisconsin scored first and maintained the lead. First of all, they did lose the lead. But second of all, it was kind of the traditional way in which we kind of have seen them, I don't want to say laid down, but I think the best example is Luke Fickell at the end of the first half, for as Gideon Atuka unsportsmanlike conduct of it all and illegal man downfield of it all, and them curling up with 12 seconds left. They did make an attempt to make that a game, and putting Hunter Simmons in and them making an attempt to steal some points at the end of that first half was one of a couple of moments where it was like, okay, they are playing a little bit more.
They made a coaching decision with a goal of a positive outcome, and how sad is it too that Hunter Simmons represents that? But he did. I thought in the moment, I was like, that was a good decision. That was a good call in that moment, even if it didn't work. He made a couple of throws, and
he did.
That wasn't on him at all. But yeah, it was refreshing to see. I don't know. Maybe it comes with the confidence, I guess, of getting the backing from Chris McIntosh, and just that, like, if I can coach more freely, we can do some of these things. I'm not sure, but it was just refreshing to see them make several decisions throughout the course of the game that were with the goal of taking the fight to the opponent instead of just mitigating the fight that gets brought to them. Like it was fun to watch. I had fun watching football on Saturday for the first time in a while, quite frankly. They played a good opponent, and they were the ones who made a believer out of me, if not for nothing more than just an afternoon.
I could not agree more. Shanking in the chat says underrated star is Deani Hill. He made some fantastic plays. Yes, tied a season high with 5 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, which is a career high for that defensive back.
Good portal pickup, honestly. He's exceeded my expectations this year. I think he's in some ways been one of their more consistent defensive backs.
I want to spin this forward now and talk a little bit about what is real and what isn't. And we'll talk about all three phases here. I suppose we'll hit on the fourth phase at the very end because that's fun. Let's start with the offense because Shanking also asks, is Carter Smith the future? I don't think that was answered in this game. But for either of you, your impressions of the offense overall and what it might mean for let's just say the following 3 games, because I think projecting beyond that is difficult.
I'll go full Greg Gard on you here, Ked. He's not the future, but he's the present.
How is that full Greg Gard?
Just some coach cliche shit from the quote he had last week.
Gard quote?
Yeah. Or was it 2 weeks last time we talked?
Are you talking about? No, it was the I'm not excited about what this team is. I'm excited about
just
what this
saying,
team
like,
can
it's
be.
a classic, like, it's just a coach cliche. Like,
I don't think a guy who threw for 8 yards is the president.
No, either do I. But I'm just saying, like, hey, they won the game. Starting quarterback won the game. Winner, Tebow.
He was not the starting quarterback. Wisconsin is still undefeated in Big Ten play when Danny O'Neal starts games.
Oh, yeah, Danny O'Neal did start.
I guess before you can even answer the Carter Smith of it all, can we just acknowledge for 1 second how grossly this staff continues to mismanage injuries? It's honestly a concern of mine. Like what they've done with Billy, even if you want to rewind further and look at Tanner Mordecai, coming off that surgery and how quickly he was back out on the field after, getting his hand repaired and then Billy getting re-hurt. He got hurt in camp and they had him tough it out. And then they brought him back in after Maryland and he gets hurt and they don't disclose that Danny O'Neal is injured. And then you find out that he's a little bit dinged up and he walked into that game in a boot. He did the arch march in a boot. And then you roll him out there because he's been dealing with an Achilles thing and then, gets carted off. I have, for all of the, the positives, I really want to focus on those in all of this. I just can't let go of the fact that they cannot stay out of their own way. And they always talk about protecting players from themselves. And I don't think they do a whole lot of that.
Well, they did the same thing with Edwards. And yeah, part of the reason I forgot Daniel O'Neal started, he threw 2 passes.
Well, yeah, it's like the same thing where people forget that Billy Edwards started the game against Maryland because he played four plays.
But this, it's coaching malpractice is what it is. Like Dylan's, you're 100% correct. I think these guys are going to play if a doctor clears them, and it's borderline. But sometimes as a coach, you got to just realize this could get more serious. What are we playing for? Is it worth it?
At this point, we're down to, we're talking about Carter Smith, and I understand why people are excited, and rightfully so. He brings an element of
a different dynamic,
being able to run and giving this offense something, because this passing attack is the most anemic I have ever seen. I have very little faith in their ability to do anything through the air. Maybe you can get creative and move the ball a little bit through the ground. I guess to answer the question about is Carter Smith the future, I think it's way too early to declare anything because he's our 4th quarterback this year. He is playing out of necessity. He gave them a spark and he gave them some hope, and that's something to build on. I pray that they give him the opportunity and the runway, to finish this season to see what he can be when you install things for him. But I definitely can't sit here and suggest that he's the future at this point. He does some really unique things. He's definitely a gamer. I'm excited about him. I'm more excited for the possibility of retaining Carter Smith and bringing in somebody who can start a year from now. But for me, it's a bit premature to look at that as one of the real things. It was real in that game and in that moment. He provided a spark that helped lift them, but offensively, I'm not ready to go there.
It is not. It is probably the year over year, season by season, most anemic offense. I mean, well, it is most anemic passing offense you've seen in your lifetime, but not the most anemic passing offense in a single game and a win in your lifetime. Of course, Wisconsin's 48 yards passing were the fewest in a victory since Wisconsin defeated Nebraska 59-24 in 2014.
It had to be Joel Stavi, right?
Let me double check my game note here. And that was of course the Wisconsin team that won. Well, right, that was the Wisconsin team that won the Big Ten West, and then they canceled the Big Ten title game.
I mean, dude, winning the Big Ten West, that's just not a lot of teams could do that,
In terms of, we're talking about offensive things that we think
that was the Melvin Gordon 408.
I figured it almost had to be where there was just absolutely no reason to even
Joel Stave passed for 46 yards on 7 of 11 passing, passing, but they said no.
Tanner McAvoy also would have made sense, but it would have been the effort of throwing. No, I don't look at anything in the quarterback room right now and think like that screams answer. It's just too early for me to tell, but I do think in terms of things I think have the opportunity to be real. I really like what I have seen out of Gideon Atuka. I don't know whether or not I look at him and say you are an unquestioned featured back, but he is somebody who has improved a lot in the short time he's been in the program. With the opportunities he's had, he's made people miss. He's ran incredibly hard. And I would really like to see what someone like him would be capable of behind some, an improved offensive line and some real road graders.
Yeah, Slim Lewis guitar in the chat, and I'll get to the first half of this comment in a minute here, but saying take it a little bit of a shot at this coaching staff's ability to judge talent. And saying, say Atuka versus Jones / Dupree should be an obvious call in favor of Atuka. I just think very clearly, yeah, Dylan, it doesn't work the way it's configured. I think that's.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I was like, oh yeah.
I think that's unfair because one, the offensive line that Atuka is running in front of is not an offensive line that Jones or Dupree, given the type of runners they are going to excel in. Like they are one cut guys. And if you have an offensive line in front of them that's going to open holes, then those guys are who you want. When you have an Atuka, I said, I think going into the week, I think maybe he is a better fit given their availability at this moment in time.
For sure.
And also Darian Dupree currently like banged the heck up. It's not that Atuka is bad. And I think he's maybe even a little bit better than the staff expected, but they are certainly not running the kind of offense that they expected to with the backs that they expected to have, of which, 3 of them above Atuka on the depth chart are all injured.
Yeah, it's been just it goes without saying, a brutal year for injuries, and it's really hamstrung. I'm not necessarily giving Jeff Grimes a pass. You have to find a way to score points, and that's something they haven't done a lot of. And I guess maybe I got to eat some crow. I thought this team's offensive ceiling was 10 points, and they busted through that. And they poured in 13. They proved me wrong.
What
the drive they scored a touchdown on did start at the 7.
That has never been a guarantee before.
I was not confident.
I look at the offense and I just don't see a lot of things that inspire confidence, even coming out of a win like this. And obviously a lot of the positive will be in what we talk about next, but you had 205 yards of total offense. And if it wasn't for some of the things we're going to talk about next, you probably don't hang the 13 we're talking about right now.
Right.
And so if this team is going to become anything down the stretch a year from now, they're going to have to find a way to even just be a below average offense and not be like the worst offense in the Power Four.
And it starts with the quarterback. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like Luke Fickell hasn't had maybe the worst quarterback luck in college football. In the past
I still maintain he does not get an excuse for the last 2 years. I will give him an excuse for this year. I'm willing to be intellectually honest about that one, because this is bananas.
What do you do?
Right.
I mean, it's still frustrating as a fan. You can still get pissed off. I'll still bitch. I'll be that guy. But like at the same time, I can get it. It's like, Edwards goes down and then O'Neal gets hurt. It's like, man, here goes nothing,
And this was a team who's, people can argue it, but I think that their ceiling with a healthy Billy Edwards was probably like that 6-win range. Maybe like everything went right. Maybe
borderline bowl team.
That was with perfect health across the board, and they're not in that place.
My Lord Lester saying Luke Fickell doesn't need quarterbacks. Well, I guess he just needs everything else. Let's move on to the other side of the ball, because that is certainly where Wisconsin shined on Saturday. Coop, do you want to wax poetic about the linebacker by the same name?
I mean, it was absolutely beautiful football to watch. 11 solo tackles, a sack, 2 TFLs. What do you have, 19? Was it 19 or 20 total? 19 total tackles.
12 solos, by the way. Don't
was it 12? I left hand up. I'm sorry. But yeah, like, to me, the old school Big Ten in me does kind of love these sloppy defensive games. Like, the old throwback Penn State games where Paul Posesny would get like 65 tackles in a game with just that fire hydrant of a neck, or like spikes. So, like, I mean, watching Cooper Catalano play on Saturday was just a thing of beauty. And then you go to the other freshman, like Mason Posa. Here you go. I got 11 tackles. We'll see if I'm right. 11 total tackles, 6 solo, but 2.5 sacks, 2.5 tackles for loss, and obviously the forced fumbles. Like,
he even had a pass breakup.
Did he?
Yeah. He registered 7 pressures and 7 pass rush reps.
That's insane, dude. For a kid he's what, 18, 19 years old?
Yeah,
he didn't come in the spring because he was busy winning a 4th consecutive state wrestling title in New Mexico.
And just when he celebrated, when he got that game-winning sack, I haven't felt that feeling about Wisconsin football in a long, long time. It seems like, like just seeing him celebrate like that, like knowing, like, won the game, freshman stepping up, had a career game. Like, it was awesome. It gave me goosebumps,
Yeah, you got Herculean efforts from both of these guys.
Yeah.
And not only is it apparent, obviously, what it means to them and the people who are playing and in that locker room, but what it meant for the fan base. That's just been through the darkest era that they've had in 30 years. That's what everyone is living through right now, and everyone's dealing with it and grieving it in really different ways. And it meant a ton. Like, people want to care about this program. People want to get behind it. You just haven't given them a product to get behind in any capacity. And for, those 2 kids to step up and play the way they did, like, you could have convinced me for that on that night. That was Chris Borland and Mike Taylor out there. Like, they were flying around. They were playing it passionately. Like, Mason Posa can just impact games in any way you want to. I think that, tip of the cap to Luke Fickell after the game. He says, I'm not sure how fast, Mason Posa is, but when, the ball is snapped, he's a little bit faster. And that's for damn sure. He's not a freak athlete, but that guy is not going to be in the wrong spot. And he is a playmaker. And Cooper Catalano is going to finish that tackle. He's going to run through your fucking face. And as an in-state kid, he's just going to have people a little bit more behind him. And it's the way that they love to play together. It's just special. It's special. It's exciting, and they represent that hope.
The good thing is, okay, Fickle's the coach next year. We know that. That's regardless. These two seem to love having Luke Fickle as their head coach and have no intention of leaving. Obviously, things can change when people throw you numbers. But, I mean, if they come back on this defense next year with a whole offseason to develop, who knows? Not saying the team's going to be awesome, but, hey, who knows?
You can build a defense around that 100%.
Exactly.
And if you're Chris McIntosh and you're preaching this investment that you're going to be having to retain your roster and all of that, if you were to let either one of these guys away from your program, he would forever lose credibility to me. These are, hand him a blank check. They represent more than just the talent on the field to this program right now.
Yes.
There are a couple of people in the chat saying that those two guys obviously should have been starting, particularly maybe over a Tackett Curtis.
I understand that, but when you're a freshman, like it takes a little bit sometimes, and like I'll give the coaching staff a little bit of grace on that.
Dylan, you and I were at some spring ball, at some fall camp. I think we've seen those two grow throughout this season, and I don't think if you threw them out week one, they would have done what they did.
I tend to agree with that. Like, I think you could see the moments, but you always have to take it with a grain of salt. Like, you're playing the twos, and there is a growth, and Mason had to work into that second group. He got there really quickly, and deservedly so. And that's
like insane. Like, and I remember talking to Luke Fickle at the end of fall camp and him being like, man, I really wish we had him here earlier, because I think it was clear he had the instinct. He needed a little bit more of the reps to be where he needed to be.
And I think it's pretty telling of what the staff's opinion was from the jump, that they've been getting snaps, even if it's just 4 here, 6 here, 8 there throughout, that like this is the one position group and maybe set of players that the staff had said before the season started, like they're gonna see snaps, they're gonna have roles, and they actually meant it and followed through. And there has been, a progression, and Tackett Curtis has just proven to be pretty one-dimensional. He doesn't offer anything in terms of, pass coverage, and I think that ultimately kind of proved to be his downfall in a lot of ways. But they took the job more than anything. I think they went out and earned it. I hear that point. It's easy to see like what they're doing and think like what it could have been, but I genuinely believe that it's taken the slow burn it's been to get here, and quite frankly, it hasn't been that slow. I think it's really, really impressive what they are doing right now.
Okay, you throw them out there right away in the first 3 games, and they play like ass. Like, what does that do to an 18, 19-year-old's confidence?
Christian Allegro's a nice player. Like, it's not like, that they were sitting behind bums. Like, they had high hopes for Tackett Curtis, who was coming back from a major surgery last year.
I think the Christian Allegro question now is one of the hardest questions this team has to answer in the offseason. I think that is a really, really, really tricky question now, because I don't think Posa or Catalano are going anywhere. Not that I think Christian Allegro is dying to go somewhere else to play under a different head coach, but just he could have a lot of different opportunities just given the different physical skill sets. And I mean opportunities outside of football if he ever wanted to pursue them. I'm talking like this was a guy who was going to go play lacrosse. I think he might be in the position where he's a little bit of an odd man out, and it creates a waterfall effect for him that is a little unfortunate, because I do think he's a really nice player for this team.
I think it's going to be a really just interesting dynamic, because another player who I thought, could potentially qualify in that real category that I really liked was Thomas Heiberger. I thought he got some opportunity, and I thought that he wasn't just out there. I thought that he was impactful. I thought that he was noticeable in what he did, and maybe there's a world where that is how you choose to maybe utilize Christian Allegro, but it's hard to say. I think that it's ultimately good problems to have, and Thomas Heiberger getting healthy gives them another option that they can kind of use in place of like what they've been using Aaron Witt for. Aaron Witt's a guy obviously you want to root for, but Thomas Heiberger brings a lot more, juice to that kind of role. So lot of good options, and I think that if you have kind of that middle of the defense, if you can retain those pieces and bring them back, I think there's a lot to work with there that I'm excited about.
A Cooper Catalano or a Mason Posa. I don't even know which one I want to give this to, but have you ever met one or two of those guys who have ever needed a neck roll more?
Oh my God. If Catalano had a neck roll,
if they both come out in neck rolls against Indiana, we're winning that football game. That's a fact.
No, it's not, but it would be awesome.
Yeah, you know what's funny is that they enter that game like 30 and a half. And I'm pretty sure that Indiana hasn't been favored over Wisconsin in like 28 years or something. It's like it's a really long time.
Hey, they're a wagon, man.
Let's go to special teams, because I think one of the most fascinating things, and in my conversation with Atticus Bertrams, we talked about this this week, and he thought it was just hilarious that in Wisconsin's last two Big Ten games, last two Big Ten wins, Ben Barton has blocked a field goal in each of them. So if that's Ben Barton, it is just one of those just stupid coincidences that should not exist, but does. So if Ben Barton gets his hands on a ball in Bloomington this week, look out. I wrote a fun piece about Ben Barton and his connection with Luke Fickell and their collective connection about to Cooper Catalano for the site badgernotes.com. By the way, that was a really fun piece to put together after talking to all three of those guys this past week. So recommend that. And then this upcoming week, I think we might make my full conversation with Atticus Bertrams available on the site to subscribers too. I might put that recording up. Special teams started a little rough and then obviously made a few flashy plays, but the punt game all day long was, I thought, just spectacular. Washington started its average drive at their own 25. Wisconsin started its average drive at its own 45. Anybody got big punter thoughts?
I'd love to see it. I mean, would they have 3 inside the 20, 4 inside the 20?
Both of Bertram's were inside the 20, and I think Sean West put 1 or 2 more in there.
Yeah, so 3. Yeah. It was a beautiful thing to watch, man, as a fan of ball.
I think they've been a terrific tandem. I mean, West has got a fucking boot and, can really flip the field and be a weapon for a team that field position battle matters a ton. And then you have Bertrams who, in those shorter situations where you're trying to be a little bit more precise, he delivered in the fourth quarter and I think played a really massive part in that win. I mean, that obviously at that point, everybody on all phases, you could point to people, but I thought that the punters played a ginormous role in it. The passing of it all aside, just leading the aerial attack. But they what they did to flip the field and pin the opponent, I think, was just masterful on a night that the defense really was playing with a lot of fire.
Now, here's the thing. How many teams do you think moving forward, like, why wouldn't you, with the college roster size, try to carry 3 to 4 punters and have, 2 guys who play, 2 guys you have on the roster maybe develop, or even just carry 2 or 3 punters? Like, why wouldn't you look for these guys who specialize in like shorter yardage punts or guys with just big legs?
Well, now you're hard capped with your roster sizes, so it becomes a more difficult thing.
Yeah, but what is it still? I mean, more.
It's 105 now.
You're telling me you can't have 2 punters?
I think they just have to. I mean, you look at the roster right now, and you probably in some years would think
You have
maybe
2 punters. That means you don't have 4 quarterbacks that you need to play. Like,
I think it's a give and take that they're just learning because
signed
it's
Josh
the first year of losing those spots. You know, there's a specialist right now, playing at Notre Dame who we were unwilling to give that, that full ride right from the jump. But he's someone who could punt, kick, and do kickoffs. And so I think now with these reduced rosters, someone like that is absolutely
super valuable
spot, because it saves you a scholarship spot somewhere else, but
they're hard to find is the thing.
Yeah, but I'm with you. Like, you have 2 guys, West is developing in real time and is going to improve in some other areas, but they bring very differing skill sets that really benefit Wisconsin right now.
Like the field position game for a team that's not explosive on offense is huge.
It's everything. Look at Iowa, man. They every year find a way off this brand of football. It's beautiful.
You mentioned Dylan the fourth quarter and those punters stepping up, and I just Atticus Bertram's had 2 punts in this game, and on his 2 punts, he put Washington on its own 4 and on its own 13. That's bonkers. Like, you don't do better than that in your 2 times touching the ball in a game.
It's what they needed, and I think maybe the beauty in all of it is, again, right, how many fuck ups there were throughout this game, but that as things progressed and as it got later, people did rise to the occasion on different sides of the ball, and special teams for all the mistakes that they find ways to make almost every week. They showed up when it mattered.
Before we get to 4th phase, I do want to kind of crystallize and put everything together here, because this was, what the hell is going on in the background with the Coop?
Just shuffling through the empties.
This was something of a game where...
Sorry, I forgot to mute my mic.
Oh. This was something of a game where everything did have to and did go right for them. I am very far from convinced this is a turning point for this football team. I am not there. I am no Ryan Eilers who less than 2 weeks ago at a Wisconsin Badgers men's hockey game was holding up a sign that said "Bring Jimmy back," and is now nonstop tweeting, "I believe in Luke Fickell."
Classic Eilers.
Being a fan is a wild ride.
Being a follower of Ryan Eilers is a wild ride.
For whatever it's worth, Ked, you are not alone. I at the end of the day, I'm a root for the story. I would love, if nothing more, we can look back at this and say that this was that McIntosh, was the lone believer in this vision, this path forward, and they start to get it right from, just a structural standpoint behind the scenes. And then that belief translates into them coaching, more aggressively. The players buy in, they develop, we get the right portal talent, and we start to win again. I'm going to root for that story. I want that to be the outcome. But I'm far from convinced. And the tough part, the tough thing is that you roll into Indiana this week. And so it's going to be really tough to build on that. But we'll see. I want that to be the case. I want this program to right the ship. I've got so many questions, and it was, even in a win, there were still a lot of things you could point to that in the average week would have lost them a game, and didn't this time. So you are not alone in that thought.
Yeah, it doesn't, like, I'm with both you guys. It doesn't change my thought process. One thing you hit on, Dylan, that I think we'd all love to see is just coaching more aggressively. Like, what do you have to lose at this point? Like, and carry that forward into next year. Like, say you keep Indiana close. They're probably not going to win the game. Hey, you never know. But say you keep Indiana close within like 3 scores. Like, I shouldn't say close, but something not embarrassing, and you hang around every other game of the season and you like beat Minnesota to end the year. Like, that's something this coaching staff needs, I think, to help build into next year. But I just can't agree with it more. Like, you need to be more aggressive. It works. Look at these other programs with aggressive head coaches. Look at NFL teams with aggressive head coaches. Like, it works, man.
This defense has been put in compromising positions all
year
long and largely done pretty well. What the fuck difference does it make at this point?
Exactly.
It was a big win. It was the first ranked win since 2021. It's exciting, but like, you have to continue to your team is a reflection of you. And when you're moping around the sideline and telling the world you don't have answers and all of these things, it's hard not to it's hard not to see that reflected out on the field. And this time they showed up, they played like they gave a shit about winning. I know that Chris McIntosh says that obviously, not all things are going to be measured by
wins. Not everything, brother.
Yeah, right.
This going on your real clip when you just submit to ESPN Milwaukee over here, Dylan. Holy
I guess I didn't play tackle for the Badgers, so I guess I just watch it differently. But, no, we'll see.
They needed everything to go right. They certainly didn't answer any questions. They didn't answer any questions offensively. They gave you some hope defensively. Yeah, we'll see. Fourth base. Kind of like Dylan was getting at, you root for the story. There are personalities on this team that you want to see do well. You hate having to go in and just having brutal conversations with these guys week after week after week. Ben Barton is a guy who has been very kind in every interaction I've ever had with him. And to see him say, you go into a game and sometimes you get punched and sometimes you throw the punches. It felt damn good to give him tonight. Like that's just nice to hear from a guy like that. It's nice to hear a Luke Fickell joking about, oh, you got a punt blocked. How do you solve that? You fire the punt coach. Like good for them to like feel like they can be self-deprecating again, to be human again, rather than being on pins and needles. Like I am glad for the people in that locker room overall that they have something to hang their hat on.
I mean, the field storm was just an exhale for everybody, and there can be a new path forward. It might not be a new beginning yet, but at least it's the first step.
Another classic football cliche, fellas. That's what winning does.
Yep, it's good for the soul.
Just gotta pound the rock.
Does he wear the vest on Saturday?
He fucking better not.
No.
The only person I should see.
I think he does. I think he does.
If he should be
not just Dylan. There's got to be AJ Harrison's going to rock that vest in Bloomington on Saturday.
If he doesn't wear the sweatshirt,
it should be that sweatshirt unwashed.
I was just about to say, if he washed it, I'm gonna be pissed, dude.
At this point, you don't leave anything to chance.
No,
nothing.
Oh, God. Huge props to Zach Halpern for asking that question in the post-game presser, because you got to be around enough to get the credibility to ask that question. Okay, let's talk a little bit about basketball for a hot second here.
Oh yeah, that's that shit.
We got 3 games, 3 like fairly different games. I think the one that they played last night was certainly the most different of the 3 that they played, because I think they played their best defensively by quite a significant margin, and I think that showed more than just in the final score. Because I think there were some things in the box score that didn't bear out some of their defensive miscues from time to time, to be fair. Like I thought some of the fact that they didn't really win the turnover battle, I thought was borne out in the final was not borne out in the final score. Guys, what do you think is real from this team as we move from the gridiron to the hardwood? Because I think there's maybe a little bit more hope in this front court and a well-rounded front court than we would have maybe expected. I have my questions about a really gross 3-minute, 16-second scoreless stretch in the first half of that game, but overall, I think they've done about as well as you could have expected them to through these 3 games.
To me, that stretch is just to give all of us who lived through those days a little taste, a little reminder. Hey, you guys remember this? Here's a little hit for you.
If you weren't with us against North Texas,
you
don't get to be with us now, dude.
But for me, that I don't know. I think I'm more excited about this team than I am last year's team after watching a couple games. Watching the game on Tuesday, like you look at the box score, they shot 50%. If you ask me during the game, I'm like, man, they shot like shit. Like there was just enough of a stretch, and
they shot lights out in the second half.
No, they did. Yeah, but that first half, it's like you're like, man, what is going on?
I mean, they came out of the gate like cruising,
Nick Boyd was out here, dog.
I think that ultimately this is a team that can hang it on you really quick, and maybe is going to be in a position to sustain. Not like when they have some of those droughts. I don't think it's going to be as problematic, and sometimes.
And that's kind of the point I was going to get to. Like you look at it, they shoot 50%. You don't feel like it when you watch the game, but as Ked said, in that second half, like at any moment, this team can go 15-2 run, 20-6 run. I feel
in the first 10 minutes of the game, they were on pace for a win of 120-40.
They finished with 1.2 points per possession in this game, like that, and held their opponent to 0.8.
They finished, and keep in mind, and that included a 9-minute stretch in which they scored, a 10-minute stretch in which they scored 9 points.
Yeah, it was like you said, a unique game to kind of digest the information and the eye test, like just don't mesh. But it's because we're watching a different brand of basketball.
To me, another thing I had jotted down: if Rapp stays here until his senior season, he is going to be an all-time Badger.
He's someone that's so good. He's got microwave
scoring potential. So good. But he gives you a little bit of everything.
He does. Memory serves me. He had a really decent assist rate at Portland last year.
Yeah.
It was like over 15%. He can put it on the deck a little bit. I thought, in a couple of moments they, got it down low to him in the post, and he he had a huge size advantage, but like some clean footwork down there. Like there's a lot to work with there. And he is somebody that you don't need to rely on. I think he's going to be kind of a luxury scoring option. He's going to be your 4th, 5th guy who's capable of putting up a quiet 15 a lot of nights.
He's going to be your freshman year John Blackwell, basically. Like freshman soft. Like that's kind of what I feel like. A guy who, hey, if he puts up 30, it's not going to surprise you. But like you said, Dylan, most nights, if he gives us 10 to 12, you're going to be thrilled about it.
Where I like him from like an X's and O's standpoint, beyond clearly he's developing the inside game more. The shot fake, I think it was Nick Boyd. He said that's deadly because he can hit him from deep. What I think we saw last year were just teeny tiny glimpses of this team with Nolan Winter and Steven Crowell putting together a real high-low game with two guys who can shoot from the perimeter but can be a presence inside. We have seen the forwards in high-low sets more this year than I think we saw all of last season.
And I love it.
It's
Lucas is comfortable in
nuts.
it.
Yeah, Lucas and Garlock together, and the two of them have played big minutes together.
Yeah, you're gonna get me bricked up, dude.
The front court, I'm not gonna say fully that I have questions. I'm not ready to anoint, the group yet, but I absolutely see the vision with it. What Nolan Winter can and will likely become and grow into as he continues to become more confident and asserting himself. What we already know what Rap can do. He doesn't need much space to get off a three, and just the way he can stretch a defense, and then Garlock gives them something really different. He's gonna have a lot of dumb fouls, but it's clear that they're gonna let him play through some of that, learn through some of it. He holds his own down there, and he brings a lot of athleticism. I think he's a nice fit. I think they really like the way that he can pair, especially like with a Nolan Winter. I think they like that pairing a lot. We're starting to see kind of what guards' preferences are with how they play off each other. But Bialuskas, the shooting threat he gives you, he is able to rebound a bit. I like the way he moves defensively in the pick and roll. There's something there, and they all offer something a little different. And I think that they all conceivably could play together in different sets. And I see it. It makes a lot of sense as long as they don't have to go any deeper than that. Thanks to Elijah Gray.
I don't know how much he was giving you anyway.
I don't think he was going to play, but I think it would have been nice to have him in. I always refer to it as the break in case of emergency role. What Marcus Silver played. You don't want to play him, but if you have to, he can. Yeah, you go out there and hold his own for a little bit.
Well, and I think Marcus Silver was better in that role than Elijah Gray was ever going to be.
I agree with that.
What I love though, if you look at Rap and Garlock through the first 3 games, Rap's got 10 assists and Garlock has 7. Mm-hmm. And think about the foul trouble Garlock's been in. I mean, he picked up 3 immediately the other day.
I think he had 3 assists in the last game.
He did, I believe. Yeah.
I mean,
I'd love to see that out of a freshman too.
Well, I don't think they put a lot on his plate offensively, obviously, because
all three of those in that game, by the way, were in the high-low to Bialuskas.
It's just there's so many ways that offensively, and I think that's the greater point, to steal the line from Guard. It's about what this team isn't yet. Like, they're scoring all of these points, and they're doing it in a way where I don't think even through any of these 3 games we can point to and say, like, wow, or they were clicking the whole time. Like, you see flashes, Boyd has had big moments. Blackwell in the first game, went off. I thought John, weird game from John Blackwell the other night. He was
2 for 6 from 3 and 1 free throw, or 2
particularly engaged. He did not get many shots early and did not go hunting for them. It was a weird game for John, but I
thought he rebounded well.
I just continue to be probably the most impressed with Andrew Rohde. I think he is just going to be the thing that gives me the most confidence that this will come together. You have a guy who operates so well out of the pick and roll, who can do it on such low usage. He's the best passer on the team. He only takes great shots. He doesn't take any even good or passable ones. He keeps the ball moving. He quarterbacks the defense.
He's Josh Gaster.
I think that he is absolutely going to be, that glue guy in the sense that, like, he's okay with not being in the starring role, but he is just really, really impossible to replicate.
What a get to go and pluck him out of, and I mean, Boyd too, to a certain extent. Like, what a get to go and pluck a Rohde out of Virginia, knowing what they demand of you at Virginia. And Boyd, and yeah, you brought him in and wanted to unleash him a little bit more offensively than what Brian Dutcher allowed him to do at San Diego State. But like knowing what San Diego State demanded of him, knowing what Dusty May demanded of him at FAU, and like they have done an impressive job of finding the right fits to put all this together to like, and yeah, weird game by Blackwell, but
I'm not
Boyd,
concerned though.
Boyd and then Rhodey, you have two genuine like ball handling guards that just allow Blackwell so much more freedom to do all the other things, including, like Coop said, rebound. And by the way, in their first 3 games this season, they have as many, if not more, offensive rebounds than they have had in any game last season.
Kudos to you for asking that question during the presser. I thought that was a really interesting take because we're continuing to have to relearn the way that we watch Wisconsin basketball because the principles, while some of them are still the same, everything in practice is looking a little different. The way that they defend the perimeter, it's very different now. And it's just, you just have to watch it all through a really different lens. And I think it was a really great takeaway. And it was also a really good and thoughtful answer too.
Yeah, not my answer, Greg Gard's answer. But yeah, what Dylan's getting at.
Ked's answer.
But yeah, what you got out of that is offensive rebounding and the way they've defended the perimeter are what I think are very clearly the two different emphases. I don't know which one.
Yeah, you're asking the wrong guy.
I never want a single word for being smart.
Of this Badgers basketball program now, and it's fun having to figure out, like in the past you kind of knew exactly how all the puzzle pieces were going to fit together, and now we have to figure out exactly what puzzle they are trying to build, and it's entertaining. It gives a little bit of a different flair.
I just have a couple other quick things for basketball. I thought Jack Janicki played awesome.
Dude, yeah.
I thought he had a great game. And then two, I know
a lot of boards, a lot of steals.
Yeah. I know we touched on him a little bit, but I mean, what Nolan Winter's been doing this season is absolutely incredible. Like, we all knew he was a good player, borderline great player last year, but kind of the leap he's taken without Stephen Crowell, you love to see that, That's classic Wisconsin basketball, developing these young guys. So I love that, man. And
absolutely.
He's been playing great.
And I was talking to my wife about it last night, but when Ked and I were down in Chicago talking to him, I thought one of my bigger takeaways, like from Nolan specifically after our conversation, was, you talk about the leap and all of the things and the coming back, and one of the things that like he was most proud of wanting to do and to be is to be just like Steve, in the sense of like Steve helped bring him along, show him the way, battle with him, all of these things, teach him what it meant to be a Badger, and how proud he was to, I think we were probably asking more or less about like carrying that front court torch, forward. And for him, that meant, living up to the person that Steve was in his role and for the program. And I thought that was just really cool that for him, it was just like the personality traits and the ownership of what that meant to kind of carry on that lineage. So yeah, Nolan's growth is not by mistake.
And he talked about it in a really intangible way, the way you're getting at it too, because he did, I think, emphasize that he wants to be a different basketball player than Stephen Crowell. That's important to him, but all like from a X's and O's standpoint, but all the other things, the reliability, the being in the right place, being a defender, being willing passer, that being a leader, those kind of things are clearly very important to him. And like, something that goes back a ways now for these Minnesota front court pieces turned Badgers, which is just cool because those two guys were really close, and Crowell and Wall were really close before them, and Wall and Reavers before them. It's cool connective tissue to see.
That just goes back to what you said a little bit ago. I think, Ked, like this team getting the right guys. Like Nolan Winter, that's your classic Wisconsin Badger big man. Like you're getting the right guys who want to develop, like who are here for the long haul, and then you're getting the right transfers to fit our system. And it's just awesome. Like I don't know, man. I'm so excited. I love this team. But like it's just awesome to see Greg Gard doing this. And I hope it transfers over to, football too, with what we saw with Catalano and Posa. Like sometimes just you get lucky and you get the right guys.
I think they brought structure to a structureless sport, a lot of ways that they can't control having the same amount of money, but what they can control is, they realize that ultimately the players to some degree are going to come and go. They built a system where they can then go attack very specific players to fill very specific roles. With the money that they do have, they scout people in season, provided that they become available. I don't know. I just think that they have gone in. They're able to contact these agents and say, here is the opportunity we have and the money we're prepared to pay. And you can move on very quickly. And so I think that, to your point, like they're still going to continue to build through these high school classes. And this freshman class looks like a pretty damn good one. They're already playing roles. And the one who isn't, I think, is going to play a really big role in this program in the future. And we haven't really talked about Hayden Jones, but I think he looks really comfortable out there as a ball handler and in pick and rolls. I don't really care what the stats reflect. That kid's got it. He's very comfortable as a primary ball handler and in those situations, and excited to watch him develop, because if he's someone, if he gives you anything this year, that's a positive. And I think that he is at worst going to not be a negative.
I think
he's going to carve out a nice role by the end of the year.
I think him developing right now behind Carrington and Janicki, who I think just perfectly complement each other rotationally, because they do a lot of the same things, a lot of the hustle things really, really, really well when the shots are falling versus when they're not. Separate conversation. But
that's what you get with those kind of guys, though.
Yeah. But Hayden Jones developing behind those guys, but then having some of the scoring guys like a Blackwell there for him to also model his game after. Hayden Jones could be, something really nice. I am looking forward to this team playing BYU in just over a week now, and they have flipped their starting positions in KenPom relative to one another. Wisconsin started the season 2 spots behind BYU at KenPom. Wisconsin's now 2 spots ahead of BYU at KenPom. And BYU has 1 game between now and then, much like Wisconsin, but BYU plays UConn between now and then. There's a non-zero chance Wisconsin is favored. That game is a pick'em in Utah a week from now. And
I'm thinking pick'em. I think it's going to be an awesome game.
I am certainly more bullish on Wisconsin's chances in that game than I was a week ago. As I've kind of said in other places, I'm not super worried about the front court defensively writ large. I am worried about it in specific matchups, and this is a game in which I think I have matchup questions for Wisconsin. Down low, but
who doesn't against BYU, dude?
Right. Okay. Do we want to still do them? Coop, Dylan, do you have time?
Let's do it. Okay.
For those of you who are here live, this is the treat you get for being here live, because this might not live after these next 20 minutes or however long the stakes. So we are moving on to the superlatives for this evening for the Wisconsin Badgers football team. We're just doing football superlatives.
We're doing football. I made it to Cade Yakimelli. So this could be like a 3-part series.
Okay. All right. Folks, this is your treat for the evening. So cheers to you. Cheers to you, Coop.
Where's Dylan? Okay, there's Dylan.
Dylan had to go switch his laundry around from the washer to the dryer, I'm sure.
All right. So disclaimer here. You're going to have a lot more fun with this. You pull up the roster.
Everybody should. Let me send this.
Follow along
in the
and
chat
look at the pictures here.
real quick.
You have this sorted by position group? Or are we in alphabetical order?
Numerical, I believe. Just how it is on the website.
Okay.
All right, folks.
Christian
I
Leg
sent
real
in the
quick.
chat the link to the Wisconsin Badgers football roster sorted by jersey number in the chat. Click that as your follow along reading, so to speak.
All right, let me wet the whistle.
I have no
Right.
idea what this is going to be. I have not. This is my first time riding this ride.
Oh, you're gonna have a great time.
I have no idea what it's about to.
Ked, you have no idea how hyper specific some of these are gonna be. All right, the first one of Cooper.
Oh wait, let me do the. No, never mind. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna do the. Yeah. All right. We're gonna sign off. For those of you who are listening after the fact, for BadgerNotes.com, this has been Talking Badgers. You can subscribe there. Go to YouTube.com/@TalkingBadgers to get this live show and get the Superlative special, which is coming up now.